Hey guys, it's Robin, RsIslandCrafts, and welcome to my craft room. This is my WiP It Wednesday video where I show you whatever I've worked on in the craft room this week, whether it's just a couple little stitches in knitting or I actually finished a project. Technically have a finished project, but not. I'll show you what I mean. Now, if you watched my Talk to Me Tuesday, or if you popped over to my Patreon page, you'll have already seen me talk about these quilts. The basics is that I had two twin size quilts that I have had them in my closet for 10 years and I never did anything with them. So I chopped them all up and I turned them into baby quilts, and I've got at least 5 baby quilts and possibly a 6th one out of those 2 quilts. But I'm not going to babble here again. You've already heard me babble twice. Check out yesterday's Talk to Me Tuesday video, and I'll go ahead and put another link to the post that's it's open to the public, so it doesn't matter if you're a patron or not. You'll be able to see this post over on my Patreon page, and it'll be linked down below. So let's see what I did work on this week, because while I did chop this quilt up and I did a little sewing to put a couple of pieces together, I didn't actually make these this week. Let me give you a close-up of the patterns that I traced out and cut out and got all ready for the Preemie shirts. And I just wanted to show you just how tiny. They lay the baby here, and this folds over like this with some Velcro, and then this comes down over the shoulders. So you basically have a shirt that looks like this. This is the one that's for the 1 pound to 1 pound 8 ounce baby. And look how tiny those are, because that baby is just going to fit into the palm of your hand. This is the one that's 1 pound or less. I can't even imagine having a baby like that. My babies were, both of my older 2 were 8 pounds, 13.5 ounces, and Robbie George, my last one, was 10 pounds 1 ounces. So a baby this small, I have no idea. My babies didn't wear newborn clothes or anything. But I put these, this is the one that they sent to me to work from, and they put it on this nice bright colorful poster board with all the little directions on it. I don't have all these stickers. I have to write on it myself. But I did print them out because they have the patterns you can print out, and you're supposed to put it on the fold. I put mine on the fold on some file folders. And I was able to do that for most of the sizes until it got to the bigger ones. And then these are just too big. This is for 8 pound, 12 ounces to 9 pound babies. So these are the larger ones that they don't need them too often, just every now and then. Because even though a 10 pound to 10 pound, 10 ounce babies, they do go in the neonatal unit. A lot of times when the babies are, like when Robbie was born at 10 pounds, they were constantly checking his sugar like every 2-3 hours or something. Because when a baby's that large, is what they're doing is they're just taking in all the food and nutrients you eat after a certain month, like during the last 2 months of pregnancy, and then they just get bigger and bigger. And a lot of times they have a problem controlling and regulating their sugar. Robbie was perfectly fine. Thank goodness he didn't have any of those problems. The poor kid just got poked in the heel an awful lot. Now, down to the actual crafting. I did work on my socks a little bit. So this is the one where we saw it last time. I did not touch that one at all. And I just did a few rounds on this one. About 9 or 10 rounds. So not much time put on this, just a little bit. I took this with me when I was sitting at the pharmacy, and they were really good. They didn't take very long to get my prescription ready, so that's why I only got a little bit done. I did work on the second log cabin mitt. I got through the 7th log, which means I'm starting to put them on the holders like this. So I'll be working on the next section, and these are getting almost pretty close. I just need to put 2 more logs on it, and then I'll be ready to start actually forming it and making it for the thumb. I've also spent some time starting some new projects. I'd like to get them all started at home so they're at a point where, depending on what I want to work on and what I want to take with me, depending on where I'm going and what we're doing, I can have it ready and start knitting on it. Well, I started working on this. This is going to be a cowl. I'm still casting on. I have to cast on 350 stitches. I like to, when I'm casting on, I put a stitch marker every 25. So instead of counting it over and over again, like I set this down from last night. How many stitches are on there? I don't remember. I didn't have enough time to do a whole 350. This is actually showing me sitting down twice to work on this. So I can just look at it and I can go 25, 50, 75, 100, 25, 50, 75, 200. So I know I've got 200 stitches on there when I pick it back up. That's a neat little trick to keep you from having to spend all that extra time counting and recounting to make sure you have enough stitches. And then when I knit back on the first row, or I knit around on the first row, I recount them. And as I'm taking the stitch markers off, I know I've counted 25, then I go to the next. That way if I need to fudge a little and add some stitches in, I can do that. Instead of finding out when you've gotten a couple inches done that you have miscounted. One more knitting project. If you remember the cowl that I was doing with all the different purple colors and with the white and the red, I made a hat to go with it. Now I'm making some fingerless mitts. Once I get going on these, I will let you guys know everything what it is, but they're all down in my Ravelry right now, and I don't remember the names. But I've decided to make sure that both of the gloves that fit the same, I want them to be the same length. I don't want them to be one's longer than the other or shorter or too many stitches. So I'm doing them magic loop 2 at a time. I'm starting with these dark purple cuffs, and then I'm going to add in the light purple color, which just means on one set of needles I have a whole mitt over here and a whole mitt over here. So what I'll end up doing is I'll knit the front side of both mitts, and I'll turn it around, and then I'll knit the back side of both mitts. And that's, you just have to make sure you don't get your, when you're done knitting on this one, you need to make sure you drop this yarn and then pick up the next one, because otherwise you'll knit the both mitts together and you'll never be able to wear them because you'll be like this all the time. I know I mentioned that I don't do this with socks because it just takes too long to go around them, and this is basically the same thing. But the mitts are only going to be a short amount here, and I really want to make sure that the lengths are identical for both of them. With my socks, I really don't care if one sock has got a couple extra rows than the other. As long as it fits fine in the foot and the heel, I'm happy. Alright, now that we got rid of that, let's check out a little sewing. I did catch up on my hand stitching block. So I got this crazy one done. It's got the pinwheels, and it has got the flying geese, and then the half square triangles all around it. This one was pretty fun, but you gotta make it in sections. So I made all my flying geese, then I made all my corner half square triangles and the half square triangles for here. Then I started stitching everything together. And just like you would when you're sewing it on the machine, I stitched each row together and then added the rows. And I also make sure that I alternate my seams so that they nest together. So hand stitching really is basically the same as using your sewing machine. You're just going a little bit slower, and you have a bit more of an opportunity to get things just right. Now I have a couple, like, I didn't quite get my point perfect there, but I got a nice point in most of the other places, and I'm very pleased with it. I also worked on 10 more of the string blocks. These are just totally random ones. I didn't matter what was in the center. I'm doing them all on my school paper still. I dug deep into some old stash that I'd found, old scraps, things that I haven't seen in a while. Then I brought in some stuff that I have used recently. Like these are from the baby quilts, bibs, and burp cloths that I did. I used up a lot of that gray. I found this. He's got a little ink on him. That's okay. I'll just set him aside, or I'll just color him in completely with a Sharpie, and it'll look like it was meant to be that way, right? Actually, I'll just go ahead and set this aside and use it for something else, but that doesn't bother me anyway. So these are all done. I don't know how many I need. I just keep making them whenever I have a few minutes or an afternoon to do a little sewing. I want to make several quilts with them and show you guys different ways to use them in quilts, so I want to make sure I have enough. Now in this little project bag here, I worked a little bit on my February blocks that Crabapple Hill Studios was doing. I believe the last time you saw this, it's kind of hard to see, but I'd only had a few up here, so I went ahead and got all these down here done. And as you see, I had to stop in the middle of using a strand. I like to, at least like I've said many times, I like to do one strand of floss before I stop. But sometimes I just run out of time or I fall asleep and then that's it and I just leave it. So I did get several of these squares put on. A reminder of what it's going to look like when it's done. When we went and did IV fluids last Monday, I didn't feel like bringing any knitting this time. So what I brought with me, does anyone remember what's in this Love and Peace bag? You guessed right, it's Mr. Snowman. I really wanted to get him done, and I didn't want to only work on him when I tell you guys a story. So I finished up some of the things over here, and I got all of his arm and his little pocket. Looks like he's got little candy canes in there. So I'm just working through that, and I'm pretty close to the halfway point, at least in size. I think there's more stitches down here because of the fence than there may be up here, but I don't know. It just, maybe because he's a little bit bottom heavy, it looks that way. So I've just been working through that, and I put 2 or 3 strands of embroidery floss into this. Spent a little time with there. I enjoyed him. I really do enjoy just doing a little hand embroidery like that. It's very relaxing. I have several projects in the works still that I'd like to just get to and get finished. So I'll just bring this back for something pretty to look at. I think that's it. If I've worked on anything else, it wasn't anything that exciting, or you'll see it next week. Don't forget, on Wednesdays, I like to hear what you guys have been working on this past week. Go ahead and leave it down in the comments. Even if you just say, hey, Robin, I didn't have time to do nothing. Because sometimes that's just how our weeks are, right? Okay, until next week, I hope you do find some time to get a little crafting done. It's a very good stress reliever. Until then, have a great week. Bye.